Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the subconscious triggers that are quietly driving our spending habits. We'll be digging into the psychology behind exactly why we buy what we buy. And most importantly, we're going to learn how to shift from emotional spending to intentional spending. Because honestly, once you understand the mind behind the money, you unlock a completely different level of control over your financial future. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's kick things off by picturing a scenario we all know entirely too well. You walk into a store and you tell yourself, I'm just getting one thing, literally just a bottle of water. But flash forward 10 minutes and you are walking out the door with a huge bag of snacks, a new phone charger, some wildly expensive scented candle you definitely didn't need, and a cart absolutely full of things you never planned to get. On the drive home, you're looking at the bags in the passenger seat asking yourself, why did I buy all this? Well, the crazy part is it wasn't an accident. Every single purchase we make is influenced by something way more powerful than just simple logic. So let's start with Section 1, the impulse buying trap, where our emotions and habits take over. Let's look at this trap in action through two spenders we can probably all relate to, Emma and Ryan. They're the exact same age, working the exact same job, earning the exact same salary. Now, think about what happens when they both get the exact same annual bonus. Emma sees her bonus hit her bank account and boom, she immediately starts making a list. A new smartwatch, designer shoes, a luxury handbag, maybe a quick weekend getaway. But Ryan? He sees the bonus, he smiles, but before he spends a single dime, he just waits. He pauses. And it's not because he doesn't enjoy nice things, he definitely does. It's because Ryan knows a fundamental truth about human psychology. That very first emotion you feel after receiving money is rarely, if ever, your best financial advisor. Which brings us to the metaphor of the shopping cart. Think about pushing a completely empty cart through a store. It feels incredibly light, right? Easy to push, easy to steer. Now add just one item, then another, then maybe one more. They seem like tiny, totally harmless decisions, but before long, that cart is heavy and a real pain to push. Your wealth usually doesn't disappear in one giant, catastrophic purchase. Instead, it piles up exactly like items in that cart. It's dozens of small, seemingly harmless decisions that feel really light at first, but quickly add up and weigh down your entire financial progress. Moving right along to Section 2, your brain on shopping and how it acts as a reward machine. Picture Emma heading to the mall on a Saturday, just to walk around. No plans to buy anything, but suddenly she's staring at this massive, bright red sign screaming, 50% off, today only. Now suddenly everything feels incredibly urgent. Retailers are absolute masters at weaponizing urgency and the fear of missing out. They know we don't just buy products, we buy emotions, exclusivity, urgency, the fear that we're going to miss out on a once-in-a-lifetime deal. And just like that, Emma buys 3 items, entirely convinced she's somehow spending money to save money. So the real key here is understanding exactly why that 50% off sign works so insanely well. It comes down to a biological process called the reward loop. You can think of your brain as a giant reward machine. When you buy something new, it triggers this rapid release of chemicals tied to pleasure and motivation. You get a quick burst of excitement, and man, it feels wonderful. But because that chemical high fades so fast, your brain immediately starts hunting for the next reward. We keep chasing the next purchase, not because we're inherently irresponsible, but because our human brains are literally hardwired to seek out that next hit of dopamine. All right, Section 3, the social comparison game, also known as keeping up with others. Ryan notices this really fascinating pattern in human nature that psychologists call social comparison. It's basically the domino effect of spending. Have you ever noticed how the second a coworker upgrades to the newest smartphone, suddenly half the office is online checking prices? Or if a neighbor brings home a brand new car, another family out of nowhere decides it is absolutely time to renovate their kitchen? We naturally compare ourselves to the people around us. That external pressure acts like an invisible hand, constantly nudging us to swipe our cards just to keep up appearances. But the true danger of that external pressure boils down to this. If your happiness depends on catching up, the finish line keeps moving. That perfectly captures the ultimate trap of social comparison. There is absolutely always going to be someone out there with a newer car, a bigger house, or a flashier watch. Tying your personal satisfaction to someone else's purchases is a game you mathematically cannot win. Which brings us to Section 4, the broken financial bucket. Let's look at how small leaks drain our wealth. Think of these tiny expenses like microscopic holes in a bucket. Imagine trying to carry a bucket full of water, but the bottom is riddled with these tiny, barely noticeable pinholes.
We're talking about things like forgotten streaming subscriptions, little impulse buys at the checkout line, random delivery fees just because you didn't feel like cooking, that gym membership you swore you'd use, and just general convenience spending. None of these seem like a big deal on their own, but together, they are quietly, constantly draining your financial future, and you don't even realize it's happening. Let's take the classic fancy coffee example. If you buy a premium coffee every workday, it feels pretty insignificant, right? It's just a nice little daily treat. But imagine taking that exact same amount of cash and dropping it into a glass jar on your kitchen counter every single day. By the end of the year, that jar is going to be packed with a staggering amount of money. Now, actually scratch that. The point isn't that you have to deprive yourself of a daily coffee if it genuinely brings you joy. The real lesson is just recognizing that repeated, small decisions shape your financial outcomes way more drastically than the occasional big splurge. So, how do we fix this? That's Section 5, Becoming an Intentional Spender, which is all about spending with real awareness. There's a massive difference between a reactive spender and an intentional spender. Imagine they both spot the same luxury jacket that costs $400. Emma looks at the price tag and asks one simple question: can I afford it? She checks her banking app, sees she has the cash, and buys it. But Ryan, he looks at the exact same jacket and asks a fundamentally different question about value. He asks, will owning this genuinely improve my life enough to justify the cost? Price is simply what you pay. Value is what you actually get. The smartest financial decisions always come from understanding the difference between those two things. To build that intentional mindset and really separate price from value, Ryan relies on an incredibly powerful yet super simple trick: the 24-hour rule. Whenever he feels this sudden urge to make a big purchase, he literally forces himself to wait 24 hours, sometimes even 48 hours. He's intentionally letting that initial dopamine spike fade away. He's giving his logical brain enough time to catch up with his emotional brain. And honestly, it's amazing how many of those absolute must-have items completely vanish from his mind after just sleeping on it. If we jump 5 years into the future, the real-world results of these two mindsets are wild. Emma isn't necessarily unhappy, but she's constantly stuck wondering where all her money went. She let her money drive the car. Ryan, on the other hand, he still took amazing vacations. He didn't stop spending entirely. No way. He just spent intentionally on the stuff he truly valued, while consistently investing the rest. He's consciously in the driver's seat of his future. He really proves that your biggest financial breakthrough has to happen in your mind, long before it ever happens in your bank account. So how can you become an intentional spender starting today? You just run every single impulse through 3 vital questions. 1, do I actually need it? 2, will this even matter to me next month? And 3, what am I giving up by buying this today? By simply hitting pause to answer those 3 questions, you force your brain right out of its emotional reward loop and into a state of clear, logical thinking. You're grabbing the steering wheel right back from your impulses. I want to leave you with this final, super powerful question to ask yourself the very next time you're holding your wallet or hovering your mouse over that checkout button. Is this dollar creating a fleeting moment today or an opportunity for tomorrow? Neither choice is inherently wrong, but the absolute secret to wealth is making that choice consciously, not emotionally. Because once you finally learn to control your spending, you truly take control of your entire future. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helps you master the mind behind your money.